So why do you think Instagram caught on so quickly?
It's a really good question, and I think we've thought a lot about that over the last few months, especially now that we're catching up with the scale that we're at. I think Instagram caught on because it appeals to the visual nature that people go after in their lives. Like we love watching movies. We love reading magazines with beautiful photos in them, like National Geographic or even like People, right?
Sure.
And I think what Instagram did was it unlocked that in people's personal lives and made it easy to get to at a moment's notice in the palm of your hand.
Right.
That was something that hadn't been done before in the same way that we did it. And honestly, I think that triggered excitement in a lot of people. I think not only that, but we also made it really easy to take your photos and turn them into something interesting, right? We allowed you to filter your photos in an interesting way, and I think that unlocked a creativity in some people that they had forgotten or just rediscovered through Instagram. And we hear that all the time from our users. It's been an interesting ride to see both of those things play out.
Interesting. So what led you to shift from Bourbon to Instagram?
Yeah, so often when I talk about the shift between Bourbon and Instagram, I like to say it wasn't really a punctuated shift. It was very much a long, drawn-out process of us mulling whether we wanted to stick with Bourbon or Instagram. If we called Instagram Bourbon, no one would be asking this question, but we decided Bourbon wasn't really the name we wanted to give Instagram. Bourbon really taught us what Instagram should become. Bourbon was a check-in app that let people, share their location, but also allowed you to post videos and photos. At some point along the line, we decided that it was just doing too much, and we decided to focus. And that focus really was in photos because we believed that was the interesting market to enter, and also something that excited people the most about the app. When we did that, we decided to call it Codename for I think it was about a month we called it Codename. And the reason why we did that is because we didn't want people to feel like we were abandoning Bourbon. We just wanted people to feel like we were experimenting on the side. But it became clear once we gave Codename to people that they really wanted to use this new thing. So finally we landed on the Instagram name. That shift wasn't easy. It was a calculated bet. But it was tough to give up something that people loved. People loved Bourbon, the small group of folks we had, but it wasn't taking off in the way we really wanted it to take off. So I'm glad we did make the change, but it was an interesting decision to do that. And obviously in hindsight, I'm really glad we did.
Sure.
I'm also glad because Mike, my co-founder, and I are both, we're really obsessed with photos. Like we're both photographers. We've been photographers for a long time. So marrying, our passion for the web and social with our passion for photos was something that I think both of us really wanted to do.
Now you went from HTML5 based development to native.
That's correct.
Right, which is an interesting shift.
Sure.
What led to that?
Yeah, a couple things. One is users' feedback was that HTML5 on the mobile device, specifically the iPhone, felt slower than the other apps they used. More clunky, it had more quirks. That was actually okay for the first 50 or 100 people that were willing to give us, a little more slack,
sure.
right? And in fact, it allowed us to iterate, and we added photos in a night, we added videos the next day, we added comments the next day, likes were another project that took a day, right? We were able to iterate at a speed that, you simply can't do in native when you wait for approval for a week, right? It allowed us to hone in on what Instagram was going to become. And for that, I think HTML5, right? And by the way, I think HTML5 is fantastic for certain applications, but to email in a photo to some random address that you have to remember was a really hard, task for people to figure out on Bourbon. That was the way you sent photos in.
Right.
What we wanted was you click a button and you say done, and it's on. And native allowed us to do that. It was a tough decision though, but in the end, I think what happened was HTML5 allowed us to iterate and native allowed us to execute.
I see. So the last question I have for you,
Sure.
What are the benefits of going mobile first?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, for us, mobile was the only thing we were interested in. It wasn't a mobile first play specifically, it was that we thought mobile was the area to tackle. We thought that was the opportunity, people on the go taking photos. There are, I could list 100 different sites that are very popular about taking photos from your DSLR or your point and shoot and putting them on the web. That's not what we wanted to become. and that's not what we were focused on. So going straight to mobile was just that no one else was doing photos on mobile the way we wanted to do them. So attacking that problem first meant that we could get in front of a lot of people very quickly in a very new way and differentiated way. I look around and I see, people tell me they're starting, startups on the web. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but like, why not do something on this web, right? The web in your hand, right? And that's because, the thing I check 30 times a day is my iPhone.
Sure.
All my friends, when we're out, we always have our iPhones. We're glued to our iPhones or our smartphones, whether they're Android or whatever. That's the opportunity I see becoming really, really big in the next 5 years. And that's why I wanted to bring our company to mobile specifically first.
Interesting. Well, thanks so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.